What's up, peeps? This week's podcast is sponsored by Brian Pfeiffer and Rockhopper Media. Rockhopper Media, freelance design with your budget in mind. All right, my peeps, what is happening? It is I, the Boozer, Pat Booze. Welcome to another edition of the amazing podcast that is Chillin with Booze. You're hanging with me, of course, as always, and I got some cool stuff to run down now. I'm gonna have my own website up here soon. We're broadcasting on YouTube now, too, including SoundCloud. I'm a DJ over at PBR St. Louis. Yeah, it's pretty cool, but most importantly, I'm an on-air personality and a podcaster. This podcast is a listener-supported podcast inside the hearts and minds of anyone with a story or who just wants to get their voice out there and share their opinions and positivity in the world. Real quick, mad shout out to a good buddy of mine, Mr. Brian Pfeiffer and Rockhopper Media. He's helping me set up my website and he can help you out as well. Look him up on Facebook or give him a call, 314-807-2911. You can get your website up and running. And check his page out. Brian does awesome work and he will help you out for sure. All right, this week's pod, we get pretty interesting. It's young Squire James Barry. If you don't know anything about BJ, he's a good dude. He's a songbird, which I find is hilarious. And he's also a pain in the neck, as you can definitely tell from this podcast. We have some issues that we've had in the last several weeks and got a grudge going on. And we try to get that out of the way pretty early from fantasy football. Then we go into a little political spectrum, and it's not something I normally do, but I like to try to branch out a little bit, and I play a little devil's advocate on some issues that he is against or for, and it doesn't go as well as I had liked, but we did try it. We talked about the presidency and how that's going, how he feels about this generation, his thoughts on millennial hate, that's a big issue, and what his predictions are for the coming years with Trump in office. So, he's back and listen in with me and BJ. We're getting a little political. And like I said, it's not something I normally do, but hey, always willing to try something new here. So chill out with Chillin with Booze and enjoy. All right, BJ, what's happening, brother?
Not much, man. What's going on with you?
Oh, not much, man. Just working too damn much and getting ready to DJ tomorrow night at Ballpark.
There you go.
You know, dealing with all that kind of stuff. So I've been thinking the last couple of days since we agreed to do this, for the last week, I've been trying to figure out how we're going to do this introduction because we've known each other for over 10 years.
At least, yeah.
At the very least. Freshman year of high school, I remember we were on the track team, and I have to honestly say, not to be a dick, I did not like you back then.
That's a pretty common sentiment among most people back then. I was a bit of an awful person back then.
I don't even think it was just that you were an awful person. I think part of the reason I didn't like you because it stemmed from the fact that we were both on the track team, we were both throwers, and you were competing for a spot, and it was like, what was it? Me, Chad Lambert, you, Kevin Wilson. When he was probably like 200-300 pounds.
By the way, that's for people with like not a lick of talent of actually throwing anything. But back then, we were hot shit. We were ready to go.
Hey, we can throw though.
We could throw.
In all honesty, after freshman year, I learned how to throw at least. Yeah. You not so much.
I learned how to write. I learned that athletic prowess was really not in the cards for me, and I learned how to write. And
apparently you learned how to sing, too.
I did learn how to sing. I've lost the ability to sing as well over the years.
The reason I bring up the whole singing bit is because one of the things I remember most about you when we were in school was the fact that you had this uncanny ability to hit the high notes. And I always thought I was going to see you on American Idol when we were younger.
Well, I was in all the choirs growing up, and I remember in 8th grade, I was hitting a high C in the treble clef. And you're right. I remember very vividly being in journalism class, listening to Akon and Gwen Stefani,
Yes.
The Sweet Escape, and hitting all of the high notes.
That is the exact thing I was hitting at. Oh my God! The only person I could think of that was in that class that I still talk to somewhat, if she's watching now and if she's going to listen to this podcast, Deanne Ortman.
Oh, Deanne Ortman.
She has to remember this.
That's a blast in the past.
Just out of nowhere, we're listening to like random songs and Sweet Escape comes on, and all of a sudden you hear BJ just out of nowhere hit the high note as high as possible.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where that came from. That was
keep
just
you guys on your toes.
it was just. That was like one of the best things about journalism class, other than Maxwell's like weird rants and raves he would go on.
He still goes on weird rants and raves. I don't know if you've checked Facebook lately.
I'm not friends with him on Facebook, but from what I hear, he's still preaching that weird conspiracy theory crap that he used to go towards.
Fun class, and what a class that has really given us a lot of really talented people from our graduating class. But that was such a blast to do. I really enjoyed journalism. I love journalism. Writing has always been a passion of mine. It continues to be a passion of mine, and Sweet Escape is still a fantastic song. I mean, it holds up. It's it's 11 years old now.
Even to this day, I still can't listen to that song and not immediately
I'm glad I ruined that for you. Yeah, I'm glad I did.
Not even immediately think, oh my God, is that Akon or is that BJ hitting that high note right there?
It's hard. We look exactly alike too. That's the killer. Splitting images. But yeah, I thought that journalism was going to be the avenue I took for the rest of my life, and it went a little different path. Kind of got off the rails there for a little bit, but I'm excited to do this podcast with you. I'm excited to.
And you're talking about starting up your own podcast.
I am, yeah. The Podcast Without a Name is what it's tentatively titled. I plan on starting it up sometime this year. I've got a Twitter handle already for it, a Facebook page as well. I've got you lined up as a guest. I've got a couple other people lined up as a guest.
That's news to me.
Yeah, and
he just signed me up without even asking me. Okay,
the millennial generation gets such a bad rap, but the millennial generation is full of empathetic people, compassionate people, the most talented people we have right now, and it's eventually going to shape our future. And I think giving it an avenue and a platform to talk to is important.
That's an interesting subject that I wasn't planning on going on. Was millennial hate.
Love millennials. I don't subscribe to the hate.
I feel like we get a lot of hate because the younger millennials, yes,
The Tide Pods,
the stupid challenges and stuff like that, which I'll admit I've done dumb challenges like the ice bucket challenge, but that was for a good cause.
That was for a good cause.
But there's no earthly reason to put a Tide Pod in your mouth and do the what was it, the forbidden fruit challenge, and end up going to the hospital. I don't understand that.
Well, I think that's sensationalized a bit. Now, there have been 60, 70 cases this year already.
Yeah,
I believe
it's in 1 month.
Oh, yeah.
We've only been in this year for 1 month, and we've already got issues with kids eating Tide Pods.
Can we cut those people off of the millennial generation? Because they're hard to defend. They're really hard to defend. You have the good and the bad about social media in this day and age is that you give normal people, I say normal, I don't think we subscribe to that situation.
I think it's you just give everybody a voice, and not everybody needs a voice.
Everybody gets a platform. Every single person, and whether or not it's Chillin with Booze or it's the Podcast Without a Name, I think those kind of avenues where you're having people celebrate what it is to be a millennial in this day and age, it's fantastic. But you also get, the Logan Pauls or the Jake Pauls, and you get the Tide Pod challengers.
The Logan Pauls that'll sensationalize suicide on their podcast or their video blog.
Their vlogs. Ah, man, what a misstep. From a guy that took 8-second videos to make a career out of, to, for 1 second, taking a flight out to Japan and just, first off, did you see other stuff before?
Yeah, it wasn't even just the suicide part. It was the whole thing in general where he's like, oh, we need to respect the culture.
And he's throwing fish around.
And he's disrespecting every single person he meets in the street and just making Americans look idiots, even more than we already do at this point.
We do a really great job of that. There's a guy that's currently got a very important job that's doing a hell of a job of that. We're going to get to that later, though, right?
Yeah, we're definitely going to cover that. Unfortunately, I have to play the devil's advocate part of that, so I have to see it from the Republican side.
It's going to be hard to do.
I'm predicting right now there's going to be some people watching that are probably going to be wanting to issue a couple of challenges or a couple of angry statements that I'm no doubt going to have them on a separate podcast. So,
you bring them on this one.
Yeah,
That's fine. I'll take all challengers.
Oh,
That's
you're
all good.
going to bring
we'll
them on
do a
yours?
Q&A. That's fine.
This will be interesting.
We'll do that.
If you got any questions, we're watching on Facebook Live right now, which makes this podcast going to be kind of out of date. But hey, what the hell? If you got any questions on Facebook Live,
so it's going to be a very, very short shelf life podcast. Anyway.
1 week.
1 week before our Patriots. I'm going to
Yes.
say our Patriots because at this point I don't want the Eagles to win, so I'll pick on the I'll pick the Patriots.
I look at you with total disgust right now because our Patriots.
I'm pretty
sure
Tom Brady.
I'm
our
pretty sure-
Patriots. Tom Brady is such a dreamy man.
Oh
my God.
God.
He is incredible.
I wish I could go back right now and look at all the messages that you put on
He is the only
G&G
person-
Lounge, which is the dumbest.
You're not supposed to talk about GG Lounge. That's like Fight Club.
Oh, I don't.
You're not supposed to bring it up.
I don't give you. You bring Swan in here, bring Alex, bring them all in here. I'll fight them all. I don't care. I'm against the G&G Lounge after what happened during fantasy football towards the end of last year.
We're gonna bring this up.
Yes, we are. We're gonna hash this out right now because you and I have a bit of a beef going right now.
A bit of a beef. I don't think 4 weeks ago we could have put this together. I think we were at each other, so it's just a little bit too much. It was really bad.
In all honesty, there was that much hatred going on.
It's a lot of hatred
because of what happened. So I have to clarify exactly what happened. We are in the second week of the first round of playoffs, which, by the way, 2 weeks for one round of playoffs is completely asinine. BJ.
What? No.
That is just beyond ridiculous.
For some background here, we're actually part of a 10-man group that's actually had a fantasy football league for about 8 or 9 years now, and it is by far the weirdest group of people.
This is my second year in.
This is the weirdest group of people you could possibly have a fantasy football group with. And
your dad,
my dad, who is deaf and dumb and blind, he's not real dumb.
The fact that you say deaf, dumb, and blind, and he's easy to take advantage of. I think this is with you saying he's easy to take advantage of. This is where the friction really hit. So the second week of fantasy for the first round, I get an update sent to my phone, and it's a trade that was approved through the league. Now, mind you, the man sitting to my right now,
this guy,
is the commissioner.
I am.
He approved this trade. Now, did I know that the trade deadline did not exist in this league as it should in 95% of leagues that are out there? I'm pretty sure no, but even still, I wouldn't have taken advantage of it.
Now, at the beginning of the year, there is no trade deadline. There's no trade deadline because I feel like fantasy football is one of those things that's just too short to really enjoy. I feel like you only have 17 weeks of enjoyment anyway. You might as well use all 17 weeks, and you might as well make some trades in the process.
Yeah, and
I'm not going to look great
in
this description. I can already tell.
No, you're not.
I feel like the framing of this is going to be really bad for me.
This is where you're going to come off as a dick.
This is going to look real bad for me.
So I forget even how the trade went. It was basically a 4 for 4
for me. I made 3 trades. I know you're looking at me like I've said something wrong. When all the dust was settled, I still lost points because of those trades. The guys that I traded away were better than the guys I got in. Julio Jones did absolutely nothing for me. He got me like 5 points.
But yet, I'm still almost positive you put up 100 points in that second week.
Did. It was incredible.
And granted, I got fucked over
messed up by Antonio Brown.
With Antonio Brown, Sterling Shepard, and pretty much any...
And the running back, Alfred Morris.
Yeah, Alfred Morris going
Jason
down.
Garrett,
all 3 of them.
If something ever happens and we get super popular and you're watching right now, I love you. The fact that you put Alfred Morris in and he got 5 points in the opening drive, and then for some reason you decided to bench him the rest of the way. Thanks for hooking up, buddy. Appreciate it.
God. Anyways, back to...
Defense, you were up 18 points. You had one of the best teams in the league.
Up 18 points, and there was no reason for there to be trades in the playoffs.
Except I was down 18 points. I mean, there has to be trades. There had to be.
No. There should be no trades once the playoff hits. Okay, you put it in pro football terms.
Sure.
There's a reason why they have a trade deadline.
Yeah, but it's like week 6.
Yeah.
Like everybody wants a trade after week 6.
Okay, week 6, yes, it's a little bit early, but week 10 in fantasy should be a little bit better.
Week 10?
Week 10, maybe
we can
week
bring
11.
it up to a vote. That's fine.
Oh, no, we're not going to bring this up to a vote because I always get shot down on these stupid votes.
We actually passed the PPR. Next year's going to be a big year for us. We're 0.5 PPR.
Oh, so we're going to get decimal points now? Or no?
Well, there's a vote right now. It looks like it's going to pass with yardage decimals, too. Big day.
Oh, wow. Big day.
So, I mean,
there's a chance that I might,
yeah.
after getting screwed by Harrison Butker all season long.
3 losses to Harrison Butker.
Actually, I think it was 4.
Was it 4?
I had 4 losses because everybody was deciding to trade Harrison Butker around, and for some reason I lost every time Harrison Butker was in the opposite lineup. But I think we're getting off topic here. We're getting off subject here. Going back to the trades, you make 4 trades for like random bigger players. You completely rob your dad blind.
Oh, I don't know. I gave him Ezekiel Elliott.
Ezekiel Elliott that was on, like, what, a 6-game suspension at that point?
He was on the tail end of a 6-game suspension.
He wasn't going to do anything coming back, and your dad was out of the playoffs at this point.
He was. Now, that being said, it's a keeper league, and my dad is sitting pretty with David Johnson and Ezekiel Elliott.
If David Johnson even gets to keep his job after Kerwin Williams stepping up towards the end of the year last year.
He had best keep his job. Holy smokes.
Again, you make these trades, and I make one comment, and apparently it turns everybody in the league against me. But
well, I mean, you don't come at the commissioner. You know, he's a very important guy, like mahogany and all that stuff. He's.
I feel like you were just tooting your own horn.
I was.
But no, there was actually a couple people that actually messaged me that were actually on my side. Alex was on my side.
Alex and Dan. And Dan was on your side.
Dan was on my side. They were a little pissed off at that.
Even Jason was a little bit. Jason is he's my best friend. I met him in college. A little bit of background. He's now living in Oregon. He's actually working for the Ducks, the Oregon Ducks. And
so Dr. Dick Cancer is working for the Ducks?
Paging Dr. Queer, Junior Dr. Queer. He is now working with the Oregon University.
And the thing is, we can say that because his last name actually
Jason
is
Queer. Yeah.
Queer. So anybody
Lots
that
of
gets,
love to Jason Queer.
If anybody gets offended by BJ saying paging Dr. Queer,
please don't get offended.
Don't get offended by the name Queer because that is in fact his last name.
I am possibly the most progressive person you'll ever interview.
I feel like we're spending too much time on Jason's name, and it's just going to sound even awkward.
It does sound
and
awkward.
I feel bad for anybody watching on Facebook Live right now that are just like, oh my God, they're just babbling about Jason's name.
Who cares about fantasy football and Jason Queer?
I care because I lost out on money. I had a chance to go against Jason.
We had some serious dough on that. We're going to have more dough on that next year. I think we should podcast the draft. I think that's an interesting idea.
I'm not against that if we can get everybody in town,
man, if we could get everybody in town.
You can get Mike Swan to move his butt back across the state.
We miss you, Mike Swan. We miss you.
He misses you, not me. I could care less. But back to the whole issue at hand. We just let loose on each other there for a couple of straight weeks. It was, and you didn't stop there with that first trade. You went on and made three more trades.
Well, the damage had been done.
I think you did it just to be and just to piss me off even more.
See, and here's the thing that I really confused me was when I made a comment to Pat after I made the first trade. Actually, it was after I made the first 2. And I wasn't being mean or anything. I was just like, Pat, you had a hell of a week 1. You're up 18 points. I'm doing everything I can to beat you in week 2. And I was being, respectful and saying, man, Pat, you've done a hell of a job. I'm trying to do everything I can to beat you. And you took that as, that damn is talking so much. He is now trading for people like Julio Jones. And all this is to beat me in fantasy football.
Exactly.
And I can understand in your shoes, that's what it sounded like. But in my shoes, it was, you've played a hell of a game, kid. I'm sorry that I'm going to have to beat you now, but you played a hell of a game. And shout out to Antonio Brown's Cavs for falling apart. Appreciate it, buddy. Thanks, man. Thanks for that.
My number 1 draft pick, and he ends up getting his legs split in half. So that's awesome. All right, so
Super Bowl. What do you got?
Okay, who do you think? I
know that's a
really?
joke.
Come on.
Yeah.
And again, this podcast is going to be so outdated, and even when I get it posted on SoundCloud and YouTube later on.
Well, here
tonight,
we'll do 5 minutes where we talk about the Patriots losing, and then we'll do 5 minutes about the Patriots winning, and we just cut out the 5 minutes. That's how this works, right?
So I got to wait to post this for
wait to post it. Yeah. I think the only way the Patriots lose, and they've looked human in the Super Bowl before, is if Nick Foles shows up. Because I think if Philadelphia's got them beat in all facets of the game, talent-wise, on the paper,
I don't know about
they've
that.
got a better defense, they've got a better running game, they've got the better special teams, they've got a better receiving core. Honestly,
You know, you look at the you look at the Eagles' running game. Yeah, they got a decent enough running game. They got a two-headed monster back there
do.
and a giant Blunt. But when you look at the Patriots' running
Giant
game,
Blunt, that's cute.
huh?
I just thought it was funny. You said Giant Blunt, but it's whatever. I'm
A
immature.
giant.
I'm immature.
Come on, BJ, we're almost 30.
Oh my! Yikes! Thanks for that. But yeah,
I'm pulling no punches.
No, you
on
are,
this
man.
one. This is the first time I've seen you face to face in weeks.
Yeah.
I think you honestly were ducking me at
Joking.
Quick Trip
No,
there for
no,
a
no,
while.
no, no, no.
I honestly think
Wait,
you were
wait,
ducking
wait.
me at Quick Trip.
We're by it's my unnamed convenience store that I work at. And all of my views are my own personal views and do not represent the views of Just throwing it out there. Got to disclaim it a little
Gotta put
bit.
the disclaimer on
A
there.
little bit of a disclaimer there.
Okay, but again.
And if we talk about any customer issues later on, of course they're coming from someplace other than Clearview.
And again, like I said, you were ducking me there for a couple of days because I came in late. Look, I even asked people like, "Okay, where is that SOB at?" And
They probably knew exactly who you were talking about too.
And they're like,
I've got
"Oh
a bit of
no,
a
he's not
reputation.
here tonight. He's not here tonight." They didn't want to see any incidents because honestly,
I probably wasn't there.
Had I seen, had
my
I
work
seen
ethic
you,
isn't
we
the
would have had
greatest
a
as it
blow
once
up right in
was.
the middle of a quick
Yeah.
trip, right in the middle of Herculaneum and Quick. That would have been interesting.
Unnamed convenience store.
I'm gonna have to edit that out
I have
later.
to edit that out. No, you're fine. But yeah,
Just splice it up a little bit, and
just a
then
little bit.
Just by have my voice distorted, and then all of a sudden you say no,
unnamed convenience store. Absolutely.
All right, I feel like we've gotten past this a little bit.
Sure.
So
Yeah, I think we have. I think we've both grown as adults. We now realize that I was right, and now we're moving on to bigger and better things.
You
did
were
finish
right.
third, right?
yeah,
You made a little bit. You made a little bit of money.
I got my money back.
There you go.
From the beginning of the year, $15, but it should have been
$15?
more. It should have been more because, in all honesty, there's no reason I should have lost to you.
Except that my team in the second week was better than your team in the second week.
And again, it's because you robbed your dad of blind, and you made a couple of stupid asinine trades with a couple of bottom dwellers in the league.
Mike Swan traded me Alex Collins, and Alex Collins did absolutely nothing for me.
Actually, Alex Collins, I'm almost positive, had like 15 points.
I can't.
Yeah, because I have
I
Alex
can't really
Collins.
dispute that. I don't have my phone on me.
I had Alex Collins in my Yahoo league, and I think he got 100 yards and a touchdown.
Harrison Butker really killed you. That's really who it was. It was Harrison Butker all the way.
It's just, yeah. I honestly think you guys were out to screw me the entire
No,
time. Because
actually, no, like-
Anytime, no. Anytime I comment on anything, anytime I say anything in the G&G lounge,
You're painting yourself as this martyr here. You've got a bit
It's
of
the
a
truth.
you've got a bit of a little cockiness attitude when you're coming into that GG league.
it's the truth. You guys were just out to destroy me every single week.
I'll have
And
you know,
anytime
I was
I
out
said
to destroy
anything,
everybody.
I
don't take prisoners.
I
hit
honestly
that
felt
mic.
like I had you against me, Swan, Jason against me.
You probably had Swan against you. Like, let's be honest.
Swan, for some reason, that bald freaking ginger has something against me. I don't know what.
Yeah. Well, I would agree that Swan's probably against you. I feel like Dan is the anti-James, though. I think anything James says, and I talk about me in the third person a lot, but I think Swan was probably the most against you. Dan was the anti-James. Anything I was for, Dan
James-
seems to be against.
Dan was against.
Yeah. Dan's a good guy. He's a staff sergeant
That
in
just
the
makes
Marines.
the whole podcast itself. If we do one for,
Oh, it's gonna be hilarious.
Yeah.
It'll be absolutely hysterical.
everybody's just going to be sitting there bitching at each other.
There are 10 personalities on that are so distinct and so completely bonkers. That's
I mean, you got Swan, who's just the persistent little side towards everybody.
he's the cocky guy, but he's got a heart of gold somewhere deep down real deep.
I don't know.
He's a sweetheart.
I don't know.
Yep.
And then you got, I don't think there's like a couple of guys that never say anything. I hardly ever hear from Dan. I hardly hear from
Dan's got a very particular personality. Anthony is quiet.
Anthony's quiet. Gio's quiet.
Gio's real
maybe said
quiet.
like 5 things all
Yeah.
season. And then
Gio is a hardcore fantasy baseball player. I was in his league this year, and I got about 37,000 trade offers from Gio. I accepted about 2 of them.
which I think that's how many you sent. In the
About
fantasy
how
league.
much I send, yeah.
That's how many you sent in the fantasy league, so you can't sit there and
Somehow
complain
I
about
didn't
Gio.
wind up getting Antonio Brown for, Who did I try to trade you for Antonio Brown?
Honestly,
Probably Jeremy Maclin or something
yeah,
stupid like that.
It was.
Yeah.
You gave me some of the worst trade offers in the history of fantasy
I just wanted
football.
to freshen things up, you know.
Apparently, we're not supposed to not talk about Brady's family, according to a couple of comments. So.
Brady's family got brought up at a radio
Yeah,
show.
yeah. That's why you
made an
never
abrupt-
you don't call Tom Brady's daughter a pissant. Just put it that way. That's like cardinal rule number 1. And
You don't talk about anybody's family, really.
yeah, you don't call a guest.
I mean,
kid
St. Louis
pissant.
radio has their own history of messing with players' families. I mean, it's just not a good place to go.
Honestly, it's not. But the whole Blake Bortles thing. The only reason Jacksonville made as far as they did was because of their defense. And everybody's like, "Oh, Blake Bortles, he was so good. He really
was good
wasn't.
once.
He's
good twice even.
He had a good maybe a couple of games down the stretch, but at the same time, he's garbage. He's inconsistent.
He's extremely inconsistent.
He has no accuracy as a quarterback. He should not be a starter.
People look to that divisional game or the wild card game against Steelers and they're like, look at the points they put up. And I'm like, yeah, but if you look into the box score and really watch the game,
What was he?
Leonard
20?
Fournette
Yeah.
was the reason they won.
Yeah, that running game is their whole offense. Blake Bortles, and they got, and granted they don't have the best receivers, and they do drop a lot of passes, but you look at Bortles, how many times he overthrows guys, how many times he underthrows guys. There's no reason Blake Bortles should be starting in the National Football League.
You know what? This is the reason why I like Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles is that old adage where you can do whatever you want to do in life. We're just as talented as Blake Bortles. We could be a quarterback for a National Football League team.
Well,
You know where Blake
maybe
Bortles belongs? You know where Blake Bortles belongs?
CFL.
XFL 2020. You heard it here first.
XFL coming to St. Louis. Let's hope.
Man,
XFL
that would be
for
cool.
STL.
That would be cool.
I would be at every single home game.
That would be a
all
really
honesty.
cool thing. XFL was actually a really cool league. Was it 2 years or just 1 year? I think I
No,
only
it was
remember
one.
the
It
first
was
year.
only 1 year.
Yeah.
It was only 1 year.
Tommy Maddox was the biggest thing. Tommy Maddox and He Hate Me were the
Rod Smart.
Rod Smart.
With the He Hate Me jersey. I always wish I could have got one.
Something that the MLB stole from this year with their Players Weekend when they had their own nicknames on their back.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
That was and
Kids these days don't realize that was an XFL original.
That was, in all honesty, I probably watched the first week and was just like beyond blown away. Just like, oh, this is so cool.
It was cool.
But little did I realize how piss poor the play actually
it was terrible. Yeah, it was
some of
really
the
bad.
worst football you can imagine. They were just downright terrible.
They were. It was semi-pro football. And that's really what it'll be this time, too. I don't think they've got enough money and enough capital to take
It's
on
Vince
the NFL.
McMahon. He's got enough money. Trust me.
He's got money, but I don't think he's got enough capital and enough wherewithal to
But he's got.
really
But the
put it
thing
together.
is, though, he's got a year to play. He
He does.
2 years. He's got relatively 2 years to plan
He's
all this
going
out.
to give football back to fans. I'm like, come on, Vince.
He doesn't even give pro wrestling back to fans.
Oh, they do a good job, though. They do a great job.
He pushes it, the fact is okay. You say he does a good job, but still at the same time he pushes Roman Reigns more than anybody else. That right there says it
Boy,
all.
this is going to be a niche podcast. There's going to be like 6 people that really enjoy this podcast. Roman Reigns
It's gonna
put on
be,
some-
and when we get to the politics part, there's going to be
Oh
at
my
least about
God,
40 or
yeah.
50 people that's just going to be burning down my
Well,
door.
that's the best part about it, you know. We're going to get a lot of opinions on this one. Now we're going to have a high school reunion.
Yeah, which I'm surprised you didn't show up for.
I did not show up for. I'm one of those guys that doesn't do that apparently.
And it's I think I can understand why, because everybody's on social media and they post about everything.
Yeah.
Oh, so you show up and you're like, hey, what are you up to? Apparently you didn't see what I posted the last 6 years.
I usually when I talk to people now, it's like, hey, do you have really strong opinions about politics? And I'm like,
Speaking
I
of
do have
politics, I
strong
know
opinions.
that's something you want to discuss tonight.
Well, I mean,
you want to do a
it's
little bit of
such-
political talk here.
It's such an important aspect of our lives right now.
And I feel like I'm going to play I'm going to try my best to play devil's advocate
gonna
on
be
this
hard.
and it's definitely going to be hard to see things from the other side. If you don't know, me and BJ are definitely
progressives. Is
progressives.
What I like to call it. I don't
Yes.
I don't like to label myself as a Democrat. I've got some conservative ideas, but for the most part, I consider myself a progressive.
I'm the same way. I believe in death penalty, especially for child molesters and pedophiles and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Gun laws, I'm okay with.
Not
with
crazy
having,
about gun laws.
I'm okay with the Second Amendment. In all honesty,
I feel like the Second Amendment was written a long time ago. Probably needs to get looked over again. I know that's the issue that I'm going to have a lot with commentators to this podcast
Oh,
will not
man.
appreciate my...
This is going to be fun when I post this one on YouTube.
Oh, boy.
So you said earlier when we were just talking before we went live, you were talking about this video that I posted about Trump
Taking credit. Yeah.
Taking credit. And
Take credit for the historic, for something that has taken a lot of work. It's taken a lot of hard work. It's not something that's perfect at all. In fact, it's far from perfect. But the historic drop in unemployment rate, basically for everyone, and it's something that really peaked in 2010 for black unemployment, but really peaked during the Bush administration with the policies that were going to cut jobs. There was a certain fantastic president that was in office between
I love the little comment right there. The fantastic
president that put in some policies and worked around a lot of roadblocks to put policies together that were going to cut unemployment, and not only cut unemployment for his administration, but further on down the line. And it's something that's just, you can look at a simple graph, and you're going to see that it peaked in 2010 and has considerably and consistently dropped over the time. So the buffoon that is in charge right now, I
prefer to call him the Cheeto, but hey, if you want to go buffoon.
The buffoon that's in office right now takes credit for that, and that's fine. You know, hey, he's the guy in charge. But I just took a little offense to that. I feel like the real issue, though, is that the wage gap is still so considerable. They're making about 84% of what their white counterparts are making in like jobs. And it's just like the gender pay gap. It's not a thing of the past. It's something that is still, right now, still an issue. And the wage is it's something that's so important to our day-to-day lives. And it's extremely interesting to me. I find anything that has to do with inflation against the minimum wage is mesmerizing. You have inflation has gone up to a rate of, God, it's got to be over. The minimum wage has only gone up 22 times. Inflation, as we both know, has gone up considerable amount. Percentages are eons more than the minimum wage.
And again, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Okay, so you're not really supposed to make a living off minimum wage. That's the reason why people go for full-time jobs.
But there's no livable wages either. That's another caveat, is that we're just talking about minimum wage. That's just the bare minimum. And there's not very many jobs. There's only 3% of the working population that's actually making minimum wage. But the issue is livable wages, and that's just not something that's happening these days. When people hear $15 an hour as a minimum wage, they're scoffing at it. They're like, flipping burgers for $15 an hour. What a crazy concept. What an absolutely outlandish concept. The problem is, $15 an hour isn't enough to live on these days. It took me a long time in the convenience store that is not to be named to make $15 an hour. Now I make a little bit more than that. I actually work for a pretty good company.
You can't say.
I can't say the name of the company,
and
but
you can't say your wage either.
I can't say my wages, but it is a very nice company.
People start hitting you up for loans.
They would, yeah. And trust me, I don't have enough money for that. And that's part of the issue. I make a really good living amount of money, but I still have to skip out on payments to pay for something else. And that's something that is so prevalent in day-to-day lives of the vast majority of Americans that there's no reason. When your CEOs are making 300 times the amount of your workers, and that's average CEOs for those big Fortune 500 companies, you have all of these little peons that are actually doing the day-to-day work, and you have a CEO who's working 9 to 5 making 300 times the salary. There's an issue with that. That's a big issue. I did not, surprisingly, tune in for the hour-and-a-half long State of the Union last night. I did catch the Democratic response from Joe Kennedy.
I didn't watch it either. And the only thing I know about anything that happened was Joe Kennedy apparently had like a donut glaze or something in the corner of his mouth.
Yeah.
That's all I've heard.
Ich bin ein Berliner moment. But Joe Kennedy III, who I think is going to be running for president in a few years, had a great response. And his response was, it's not that we have to choose one or the other. We can choose to do both things. We can take care of childhood CHIP programs. We can take care of DACA. We can take care of the working poor, and we can take care of the disabled. We don't have to pick one or the other. As he said, and I quote, life isn't a zero-sum game. you don't have to have one winner to be one loser. We're such a fantastic social experiment of a country. This country has done so much from so little not that long ago. We're still basically a brand new country. We're only 1776 really wasn't that long ago. 4 or 5 generations,
A little less than like 200 years?
Yeah.
Just about there.
More than 200 years.
Or okay,
we went to Northwest, everybody. So, I mean...
where the N stands for knowledge.
Where the N stands for knowledge.
So... All right, so, okay, think about it. A little over 200,
241 years.
Yeah, 241. God, I sound stupid. Okay.
I'm probably wrong on that anyway, but math, it's fun for everybody, and it's different in every language. But it's the idea that we don't have to pick just one or the other. There's not always just two sides. Why do I feel
like most politicians feel like they do have to pick something? They have to pick one issue to...
It's a two-party system.
To harp on.
It's a two-party system. And that gets into the whole conspiracy theory as well. Well, that's so stupid. America doesn't need to be a two-party system. Well, unfortunately it is. And so with every single issue...
I mean, hell, I remember voting for Gary Johnson for the last election.
Oh, man.
Going green.
Oh, man. But you have one answer to both sides, and then you have to pick which side you're going to be on. And whoever has most of your ideas in that whole zero-sum game of politics, that's who you vote for. The way to counteract that is by getting involved, and that's where I think the millennial generation really can be a big deal, because we're the voting bloc now. We can choose which direction our country has to go in, whether or not we want to be progressive or conservative. And conservative gets an ugly connotation, and so does progressivism. But there's a happy balance. I think our generation is smart enough to do it. I got a lot of faith in them. Defending the millennials is hard. They do dumb things.
Yeah, they do. Our generation, the millennial generation, really isn't the brightest crayon in the box.
I mean, well, as I saw a meme the other day, our baby boomers are having a hard time keeping the Congress running, and the generation after us are eating Tide Pods, and we're here enjoying our avocado toast. So, in the grand scheme of things, we might not be doing that bad of a job. But we're the participation trophy award. We're that generation. We're the generation that got participation trophies.
You don't believe that? You don't accept that? Or
I mean, it's not wrong. I mean, I have a whole shelf full of participation trophies. As you could tell, I was not much of a thrower, but I think I did get a participation trophy out of it.
I think you did because of the 2 mile.
Like the fastest time over 30 minutes. That's right. Yeah. You're looking at him. What a speed demon I was.
Which I don't think was the truth. I'm pretty sure I finished faster than you did.
There was one guy that got hurt, and so I didn't finish last. I actually managed to score points for the team.
Yeah.
Somebody got hurt in the first mile, and I didn't finish last. They started the next race before I finished. There was a guy on the other team's coach that told me to get out of the inside lane because I was slowing down his runners. And as a 14-year-old, I told him to go fuck himself. Like, you moron. You realize that it's further when you're running around the outside of the track? I was trying to get done as fast as possible.
I can only imagine 14-year-old you.
14-year-old James. I'm like, you're out of your mind.
That was the beginning of outspoken James Barry.
Yeah, I didn't really have much of a personality, I thought, until like senior year. But man, it showed up a little bit before that. Senior year in college is when I really honed in this personality of just seeing humor in a lot of things.
Tom Durkos and Jason Queer could probably.
They probably can.
Yeah.
There's some pictures on the internet that are hard to explain unless somebody was there. But we, in college, we started a student organization. And it was the Guns Gang, and that's how the football league got its name. We would all dress up like crazy people and go to college baseball games and say some of the meanest things ever to the other teams. And we could do this because we paid admission because Missouri State charged kids admission to go to baseball games. It was
I think it was only like $2, but we paid for season tickets because we were fancy. It was $20 for season tickets, and we had a binder full of every roster of every
would do something like that.
of every Missouri Valley,
tickets.
every Missouri Valley team. We had a page for their roster, and we would go online and we'd find out their parents' names. We'd find out their majors. We'd find out their high schools. I remember screaming at a pitcher.
You are just the evil. You were just evil.
I remember screaming at a pitcher, I think from Wichita State, whose like mother's name was like Susan. And I'm like, me and Susan are real disappointed in you. Communication is not a real major. Just screaming at these poor kids. It was a doubleheader.
You were the worst.
There was a doubleheader between us, Missouri State, and Northern Iowa. And they had this catcher who had to be 4'11", maybe 5 foot.
He's a
on
little shrimp.
stilts.
He's a little
On
shrimp.
stilts, he was 5 foot. They were so much better than we were. They kicked our behinds the first game of the doubleheader. We went to Walgreens afterwards, bought these huge lollipops. All right.
I can see where you're going with
God, this guy hits a triple in like the 4th inning of the second game. We stand up and we start screaming, "We represent the Lollipop Guild," as loud as we possibly can.
This catcher is probably looking for you guys as we
The
speak.
third baseman of our team, Kurt Courtwright, if I'm going to name drop, loses his mind, just cracks up. As the little third base shrimp, he takes a couple steps towards us. It was hysterical. His third base coach had to restrain him from coming after us. Not only did the other teams dislike us, our own fans did not like us very much.
I can see why.
They felt like we were there to just take away the attention of the fans.
It seems like you were trying to get yourselves over rather than actually get the teams over.
We got invited to some baseball parties, man, and it was. There's some pretty. I can't listen to Katy Perry without having some certain feelings because of some of those baseball parties. I can't really get into it, but.
I can only imagine.
It was.
I sit there.
It was a blast.
Okay, here's the thing. I claim to be a natural born heel.
Yeah,
you got it. You're worse than me.
Man, I don't
thought
know.
I would say that.
I grew up in the Attitude Era, man. I know what real heel is.
Oh my God.
It was a blast doing that. They're coming to town in April to date this podcast even more, but they're going to face Missouri at the Busch Stadium. I've already got my tickets. I'm inviting everybody that wants to dress up like a crazy person.
Oh my
and scream.
God. I can see it right now. I'm going to be across the street DJing
At PBR.
At PBR.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look out the window and see me
being dragged out.
You being dragged out
by
of Busch Stadium.
by the antlers, probably. I'll be dragged out by the antlers. But yeah, we were the Guns gang. I was the hat because I bought a Dollar Tree hat and I wore that to every game. I think the original members were the aforementioned Jason Queer, who went by the name the Fro because he used to have a huge fro.
And probably because he didn't want to give out his last name.
Probably didn't want to give out his last name. We had Alex, who was the other guy because he would take books to baseball games. And we had Matt Irby as one of the original members.
Herbs, wow.
The Herbs, yeah.
I haven't seen or heard from that guy.
Still alive, apparently. Yeah, still alive.
It's good to know.
Yeah, still alive.
Guy's falling off the face of the earth, but hey, at least BJ knows he's still alive.
He's still alive. He's still a good guy.
I think we've gotten off a little off topic here.
A little off topic.
So back to the political spectrum.
Sure.
You are still you're definitely not a fan of Trump. I can tell by everything we've talked about.
No. I mean, I was trying to think of a sarcastic way to say yes and not mean it. I hate him. He's the worst. There's presidents that have only lived a month in office that have done more things good for America than Trump has.
That's saying something. That's really saying something about those guys.
Herbert Hoover was a better president than Donald Trump.
What has he done that you're specifically not a fan of? If you can at least pinpoint at least 3 things he's done that you've not been a fan of.
Well, he's taken us out of the pedestal area. We were the country in the world. We were the best country in the world. We had the ability to look at our foreign allies and then know that we're there for them. That we accept all comers. That's what the
Statue of
Liberty says. We were the melting pot. And to say that these people don't belong here, even if they're coming in legally, which is what he has said. If you really pay attention to what he said, it's not a matter of just the illegal immigration. which needs to be curbed. He's coming in with the thought process of even the ones that are legal but don't look like us, we don't want them out. When you're telling me that the people in Charlottesville that are bringing tiki torches are some very fine people, you don't represent what is the majority of America.
I mean, it's really hard for me to play devil's advocate on this one, but it's the right. But I guess I can pinpoint the right to free speech, even though we don't like hate speech. It's
but your president doesn't have to protect hate speech because hate speech isn't protected in the First Amendment. There's a difference there. You can claim freedom of speech all you want. Hate speech is not protected in the First Amendment. It just isn't. So if I tell somebody, hey, I don't like, and I'm not going to do this because I feel like you'll splice it. When I say I don't like a certain people, I'll be like, listen, I've been saying this for years. James is awful. But no,
you're not giving me any
no ammunition
to use against you.
You can't possibly be the president of only parts of America, and that's what I think he's really getting at. I don't think he ever wanted to win. I don't think he thought there was a prayer that he was going to win. I think he wanted to transition from running for office into Trump media, and I think he was going to get with Breitbart, and that's a lot of the reason why Steve Bannon was such an insider. I think they wanted to make their own Trump media with Breitbart. And unfortunately for him, because I think he lost a lot of money this way, I think he won. And I don't think he's ever really forgiven anybody for him winning. I think he is...
So you're saying that he's basically taking out him winning and him losing
all
this
I don't
money.
think he's taking anybody out.
He's taking it out on the rest of America.
I think the scary part about it is I think he's doing the best he can. And this is the best he can. And that's really what's the awful part about it. He's a sycophant. He's a misogynistic racist. And he's xenophobic.
See, I said that earlier in the day, and again, this podcast is going to be a little outdated. I said that earlier in the day that he's misogynistic, and they're like, "Oh, how?
How is he misogynistic?"
When he says he's going to grab somebody or grab a woman
by the genitals.
No,
they didn't say he would. That he has.
That he has, yes, and that he's also. What was it?
We've both been in locker rooms, Pat. Have you ever talked about grabbing some girl's crotch?
No.
Neither have I.
I played football for 3 years. I did track and field for 4 years. I did wrestling for 2 years. In that time, I don't ever recall anybody talking.
I played soccer for 9 years. I've never talked about grabbing anybody
like
for genitals.
That kind of talk was never really in
vogue.
In vogue because
if you said that, you'd be an
culture
ass
right there.
Nobody would hang out with you if you're like, I grabbed this girl's. Grabbed her by the pussy because I'm just that big of a star. You'd be an ass. Nobody would hang out with you. It's just that's simple. It's not locker room talk. It's not talk. It's behind. You don't call other countries shithole countries when you're the president of the United States either. It's not just dinner table talk, or as they put it now. It's him.
Oh, he's just and
I think
I've heard this. It's what everybody else is thinking. That's what he's saying. He's saying
it's what everybody else is thinking. Yeah, that's. I'm always thinking about grabbing women by their genitals. That's my go-to move. It's just
and
that's
in these crap hole countries,
these shithole countries. Absolutely. I mean, when I think of Haiti and the fact that it's already gone through a major earthquake, all the cleanup that we've had to give for it now, it's the first thing that comes to mind is what a shithole. What a shithole country. What an awful country. Same thing with Puerto Rico. I don't think he knew that we had Puerto Rico as our territory. I honestly believe he had no idea that Puerto Ricans are actually U.S. citizens.
I mean, I know I'm supposed to be playing devil's advocate here, and I'm probably doing a shit poor job of it, but...
Oh, you are, but it's hard to do that.
It's hard to do that.
That's why they pay people to do it.
But here's another one with his whole, I met the president of the Virgin Islands.
He met the president of the Virgin Islands.
He
the
met himself.
U.S. Virgin Islands.
He met himself, basically.
Man... I remember thinking George W. Bush was going to be the worst president of my lifetime. And we had Obama. And I'm like, man, I might have just lived through the best president of my lifetime.
Honestly, I was actually for George Bush. See,
and now we have Trump.
I grew up in a Republican household.
Sure.
I grew up thinking conservative, and it wasn't until after I was 18 I started doing my own thinking. That's why I
more towards progressive.
More towards progressive, more democratic. There are still some conservative views that I still maintain, but at the same time, do I believe everything that was said about certain people?
I think Churchill said, you show me a 20-year-old conservative, I'll show you a person without a heart. You show me a 50-year-old progressive, basically, I'll show you a person without a brain. it's not cut and dry anymore. But the fact is when we're younger, and we're full of compassion. Now we say dumb things to each other. We say mean things to each other.
Pretty sure he called you a turd burglar a number of times.
Yeah, a number of times. But the fact is that our generation should be the generation that wants to take care of people. We're the most inclusive generation that's ever come.
But I think also at the same time, we're the most selfish generation.
Are we? Would you consider us the most selfish generation? We
Instagram.
can't own anything.
Instagram.
Sure, we can't own anything. I'd be posting things on Instagram too when I couldn't own anything.
But at the same time, we're the most. I believe we're
Self-centered?
the most self-centered, the most vain generation because of social media. I
It's
think
hard.
social media has a lot to do with it. I believe because we post and I'm guilty of it. I post a lot on Instagram. I post a lot on Facebook. Post a lot on Twitter, and trying to get my name over and trying to get my name out
Sure.
there and stuff like that. And I'm just like sitting there taking photos at hockey games with me and Bethany and anything else I can to post on Instagram.
Nice shout out to the wife, by the way.
Yeah.
Good move.
I haven't done that in a while. She's actually been meaning to get on here too.
Oh yeah,
So,
that'd be fun.
I'm trying to.
I was
find-
actually listening to the Robo Ginger podcast on the way up here today.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
With Gary. That
Gary.
was a good one. I can't wait to have
What
him
a
on
good
again.
wrestler, man.
He is
Whew.
an awesome wrestler.
He
Seriously.
want to talk about taking bumps. We know we got out of hand there, but man, he can take some bumps.
But he can give them too. Like
Oh, yeah, he can.
he's with his chops, with the ferocity of his chops and punches.
It's only a matter of time before he gets picked up by a legitimate.
He should.
Yeah.
He should be signed at this moment right now, but he's not. and it kind of
he's
sucks.
got a weird look, unique look, and a good talent, good set of skills. He's got a pretty good mic too, so
Right.
I think he'll be fine.
All right, back to.
We'll cut that out, I guess.
No, probably keep it in. Give Gary a little bit of a rub there.
Yeah,
But back to the, I think we are the most self-centered, selfish generation because of how we're trying to look for so much appraisal. Like, oh, look at me.
if I don't get any
here.
likes, I'm gonna riot, basically.
Or if I don't get any likes, I'm taking it down.
Yeah.
That's basically it. I just feel like I posted this just to post it. And sometimes there are people on Instagram that are like that.
Sure.
And I see a lot of Instagram models. I see a lot of people that post on Instagram that are just like, oh yeah, I posted this and no one commented, so I'm just going to take it down.
I think with the advent of technology and social media, you're bound to get a little rub towards the looking at it as what's the way to put it? I look at it how selfish everybody is. I mean, that's a normal thing to look at. I think it's just another avenue of being able to make the world a little smaller. And I think that's what's really cool about podcasts, and I think that's really cool about social media. I don't really look at it as us being selfish. I mean, I look at it as I love podcasts because I drive a lot for work, and I can listen to something I want to listen to. I just want to listen to a couple of people talk. It seems stupid. I mean, because we're surrounded by top 40 hits right now, but I love listening to people talk. I love listening to different people talk. And so that's probably why I'll never listen to this podcast. I hate the sound of my own voice, so this is going to go great.
Great.
But
one time I'm looking for actually someone to share and post and whatnot. No,
I'll
I'm not
definitely
gonna
share
do
it.
'cause
Yeah,
I don't like my
absolutely.
voice.
But I think that this generation gets a bad rap for the social media game. But I think social media is such an important aspect of our lives now. You're able to spotlight things that were never going to be spotlighted before. You're able to say, hey, look at what I'm doing. Hey, look at this little spotlight of this American life that nobody would have ever seen before unless we had social media. And that's the cool thing about social media. I work with a guy. I'll give a little shout out to him, too. He's starting out with a new YouTube channel. He's got 7 kids, or 7th one's on his way. He is 32 years old. But he is such an incredible father. Such an incredible father. And he's got a little YouTube channel. And it's like basically the day-to-day lives of having 7 kids. Now, the first thought in my mind is, holy cow, has that guy ever heard of a condom? Now,
I was sitting there thinking I was going to go a different aspect.
you're going to go a different aspect? I go straight for it, man.
What's he gonna call it? It's basically like a John and Kate plus 8 knockoff.
John and Kate, no.
basically?
Family Funcast is the name of the channel, and I remember working. We worked
Shout
a lot
out
of
to Family
overnights.
Funcast.
Shout out to Family Funcast, dropping
Hopefully
names.
Get that out there soon.
Their thing went viral this year. With their announcement of their 7th child, their picture went viral, and they ended up seeing about 3 million unique views over their. You probably saw it and didn't realize it.
Probably.
It was just a little picture of a baby announcement, and it really spotlighted the cool part and the bad part about social media. Social media can be an incredible avenue to get your name recognition.
We talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's basically the whole aspect of, it gives everybody an avenue to comment, and but it also gives
everybody an
a
avenue to
voice.
comment. Yeah, and so you had a lot of anxiety because of all the negativity. Like, you have 7 kids and you're 32, people are going to have negative connotations. They don't realize that family budgets like crazy. That
People
family
don't realize
can afford
that's
it.
real people. I think that's
yeah.
another thing about this generation too, is just the fact.
And it's not this generation either. I mean, you go on a certain Jeff Co. page.
It's the day and age where everybody thinks they're the keyboard tough guy and the keyboard warriors, where they can say pretty much anything behind a keyboard. And some of them think, I'm not going to get in trouble. And then, like, 2 days later, they get fired. That kid that commented on the cop getting shot up in Arnold.
Oh, yeah, that was a huge deal. He lost his job.
He lost his job. I don't think he even had the job to begin with, but he got roasted.
Yeah.
He got roasted by Emery King, of all people.
Yeah.
Emery King, and he's got some of the most ridiculous views on things. But I think that's another
podcast.
That's another
Probably
podcast.
Emery King on for that one. I don't have a very huge footprint in social media, but it is growing because I do post a lot of stuff on Twitter, primarily, and Facebook. But I've gotten probably 30 death threats over social media for some of the things that I posted. Some of the little things that I posted.
Like what? Like,
there
give me an
was
example.
there was a page called "It's Not Racism. I Don't Like His White Half Either," and it was based on Barack Obama. And I remember commenting just like, "You guys are being ridiculous. Like, this is racism. When you have to split a person in half, basically, and to prove I'm not racist because even though I hate his black part, I don't like his white part either." And the posts were racist. They were caricatures of him being like a horse or caricatures of him being a monkey. These are race-related issues. That's a racist picture. And so I would comment on this stuff like, you guys are the worst people on earth. Like, there's so many things wrong with this, and I hope you guys don't procreate, is basically what it ended up being. And
told the truth.
Yeah. And so I remember looking at the old Facebook Messenger before they had the little app, and I hope I don't find you or I'm going to kill you. I hope I find you or I'm going to kill you. And then I'd have your parents should have aborted you. These are the first 3 messages I get from that. And I'm like, well, that's great. That's going to go over real well.
Jesus.
And at the time, it was like 2009, 2010. I'm, 12 years old? I'm just kidding. I'm like 20 years old. I was trying to hide my age there. But it's just, people don't think about the people behind the scenes of social media. Just like my buddy at Family Funcast, there was a lot of negative connotations. Like, holy cow, get off her, man. Saying all these kind of awful things to these people. These people have done nothing wrong. They put a picture up on Instagram, and she's got 50,000 followers. It gets shared by sugar spice families, whatever that thing is. It's like BuzzFeed. And 3 million views later, they're internet superstars over the course of a day. And now they've got he's starting a new YouTube, and it's kind of just starting out pretty soon. I think it's got like 500 followers now. She's got upwards of 65,000 on Instagram. And it's becoming a bigger deal for them. And I'm really excited for the things that are going to follow with that. And that's another reason why social media is so cool, because it gives you an avenue to make money that isn't the old-fashioned way of going to work 9 to 5. You can make a YouTube page.
That's honestly what Bethany really wants to do. She wants to become YouTube famous,
sure.
Vine famous. She wants Vine to come back so we can.
Man,
she wants to do vlogs and stuff like that, which, in all honesty, I think she'd be good at. I mean, she's a cook. She has a lot of.
Lord knows the world needs more cooking videos. Man,
she does. She knows a lot of life hacks, and part of the reason why I married her, because she's so damn smart.
Yeah,
but. That's the one thing she really wants to do more than anything is become a vlogger.
Yeah.
And I think I think part of the reason why is because she watches so many people.
The market is saturated.
Yeah,
it is.
But she watches so many of them that are out there, and just makes her think that's what I want to do, because she's a fan of Jenna Marble. She's a fan of Jenna's fiance Julian. She'll watch Joey Graceffa. She'll watch Shane Dawson.
Yeah.
Those are her main people that she enjoys watching, and that's really fueled her interest in becoming a vlogger. Which, hell, I'll plug the living crap out of her if she wants.
Well,
to
I mean,
do it.
that's the cool thing about podcasting in general. Is like podcasting is something that's still peaking. It's it gives you an audience. People are always looking for something new to listen to. People are always looking for something new to watch. And that's the cool part about social media. I mean, again, social media doesn't have to make the whole generation selfish. I mean, social media is just another HBO.
And you commented about when you were talking about the BuzzFeed.
Mm-hmm.
You remember a classmate of ours, Ashley Nations.
Okay.
She just got married not too less like 6 months ago.
Yeah.
To her boyfriend, her husband now. But she got married, and he is African American, and his reaction to her coming down the aisle went viral.
Oh yeah.
And her reaction to seeing him and them both crying and whatnot was mentioned on like USA Today, BuzzFeed, like so many different
That's
social
awesome.
media outlets. And I thought it was great. The one thing I didn't see, which I know there was probably a lot out there, was all the hatred towards it possibly.
I mean, BuzzFeed
And-
probably not. BuzzFeed's pretty progressive, but I imagine there is.
Well, I mean,
there has to
people
be.
commenting on it and stuff like that. I never saw one post about people commenting negative towards them, and I'm glad for that. Chances are
It was there.
It was
Yeah.
probably there, and because Ashley, I know Ashley personally, she would take the high road on this. She probably would not acknowledge it,
Sure.
and that's awesome of her.
That's the right way to do it.
yeah,
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
even
'cause-
acknowledge the hatred.
Again, that's why people take shots at it, is that they don't understand it and they hate people. I mean, and unfortunately, those people that hate people voted for the guy that's in office, and that's why he's in
And
office.
I think it also comes to an old adage: people always fear what they don't understand.
Well, yeah, and I mean, I think that's really come to roost in this day and age when you have transgender, when you have the LB. I have plenty of friends in this community, and I always butcher it. The LGBTQ
A
plus.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have things that people just don't understand and they can't label, and they
I
get
have
afraid
actually
by it.
I have actually a few people that actually want to be on this podcast.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I am a huge proponent of any issues that come arise. They give them the rights that they deserve. They don't deserve to be treated like lessers. And the fact is that the generation before us still has jaded, old, archaic views on this matter. And that's why they don't need to be in power anymore, because you have more and more people. Remember that Trump is going to be the champion of the LGBTQ community in his acceptance speech for the Republican.
I find that hilarious too, because knowing the fact that his
transgender ban
not only that, his vice president Mike Pence,
believes in conversion therapy.
Yes.
What a freak! Holy cow! No cakes for gays.
Mike Pence is the worst part of humanity, in all honesty.
He does not get enough credit for as awful as he is. He is so much. I think he's worse than Trump. And
In all honesty, I think if we do ever impeach Trump, we'll be worse off with Mike Pence in office.
he won't be. He won't last, because he's gonna be found an issue with that. He was the head of the transition team. If there's any kind of Russian collusion, the transition team is all going to be wiped out. I don't think we have to worry about that. Well, the problem we have to worry about is Paul Ryan being president. And Paul Ryan's got a very votable face. He's just an awful person.
Is there any politician that you actually like that's not an awful person?
That's not an awful person?
Because we've named off three now, because you don't like Pence, you don't like Trump, and you
Well,
hate
there's
Paul
something
Ryan.
in common with those three. But there are Republicans that I don't hate. Susan Collins is pretty cool. She's all right. Most of the time.
Most of the time.
Most of the time she's cool. Sometimes John McCain mixes up his medicines and becomes a human being, and that's pretty cool too.
Old man McCain.
Yeah. I was a Bernie bro. I liked Bernie. I liked Bernie because he offered to give me free relief for my student loans. Then he lost. And so then I voted for Hillary, which I know is going to spike your viewership hatred. But
Again, his name is James Barry.
James Barry, yeah.
So if you want to
you can follow me on YouTube, Facebook, not YouTube, yeah, Facebook and Twitter.
we'll plug your social media at the end of this.
I'm gonna
Which
have
is
to look
coming
it
up
up
here
before we,
in a bit, but
yeah.
still.
To me, it's so cut and dry that people voting against their interests is the thing that drives me crazy these days. And it's something that's really prevalent in Missouri, which should not be a red state. If your poverty percentage is over 20%.
State, but at the same time, look where we live and look where we're from.
Yeah. Our poverty percentage in Missouri, I believe, is well over 20%. Well over. And it's supposed to be national average. It's supposed to be 20%. It's not. It's higher than that. But everybody who's making less money should not vote Republican. Because holy cow, that's against your interest. Their little tax break they've got for you, they're going to cut Social Security and Medicare at the end of it. That's just, they've already said it. That's how they're going to pay for all this tax breaks now. That doesn't help us. That doesn't help me. I'm right at the poverty line, the real poverty line, which is about $35,000 a year, even though the poverty line is supposed to be $20,000.
I don't even make half that, I don't think.
Yeah. $35,000 a year is considered to be out of poverty. You can't get government assistance for that. But you also can't live on $35,000 a year. I mean, you're only taking home about, what, 22, 23, 24,000 a year after you do 35,000. You're still not making enough money. After healthcare has gone up like crazy, which when you're taking out the personal mandate and the tax code, you're just gonna raise mandatory premiums on insurance. I know I'm going off on a tangent here, but to me it's so obvious that if you're hurting for cash and you're hurting for salary, there's literally no reason to vote Republican. They're not in it for you. They're in it for themselves. They're in it for their donors. So voting Democrat, as dumb as some Democrats are, and there are some dumb Democrats, Chuck Schumer being a really dumb Democrat and an awful person. And he... So
it's good to know that you find...
I go across the aisle with my awful people comments.
You hate everybody.
But I think anytime you have people voting against their interests, you're going to have idiots like Trump being in power. You're going to have people like W, who shouldn't have been a president, was a president. You're going to have, who's a good Republican? And in this day and age, next week, there's probably more sexual abuse allegations against them, so it's going to look really bad for me saying this. HW, his dad. I know he's had some issues lately, but he was a really good president, especially after Reagan, who was awful.
Reagan was awful.
Reagan was terrible. Oh, my God. Reagan did nothing to it's a different podcast, but the reason why we had the AIDS epidemic as bad as we did, Ronald Reagan. Didn't do anything for it. Just pretended it wasn't there. Started just counting jelly beans every time it came up in conversation, I guarantee. But he is most corrupt cabinet, Reagan, with the amount of time served and amount of time sentenced, had the most corrupt cabinet.
I think there was one... I think that a movie American Made talked about that with Tom Cruise. Because a member of his staff that basically sold out the pilot that was like the main guy.
Born in the USA? Is that what you're talking about?
No, Made in America.
Made in America. Oh, is that the new one?
Made in America.
That's the new one, right?
Yeah, with Tom Cruise.
Okay.
Like somebody in his cabinet apparently lied and
oh my God,
basically took the rap for Reagan.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So, like Reagan would have gotten in trouble.
Was a bad guy. He wasn't good. I mean, it's easy to think of him as like the aloof grandfather because in his second term he was completely senile. But he was not a good president.
The thing is, I remember the only thing I know about Reagan's policies or anything like that, it was all made like everything he did basically was made fun of by a lot of like late night shows.
Oh, SNL had a field day with him.
Yeah. Johnny Carson had a field day.
Johnny Carson had a field day with him.
Don Rickles would tear him up anytime he was near him.
I mean, the conservatism.
He referred to him as the dumb dumb senator from California.
Yeah. The ability of our history to put such a shiny bright light on people is just, it doesn't take long. I mean, W has great approval ratings now. I mean, when you're measuring him against Trump, he's, not bad. But, I mean, he was terrible. I mean, we're coming off of a Saturday Night Live sketch where a lot of these facts are brought up again. But he did start two wars. It was Farrell did W again. And he just wanted to remind everybody how awful he was. And it was pretty hysterical. It's definitely worth a watch. But I
haven't watched really much SNL since Sean Spicer
Spicy? Yeah.
Since Melissa McCarthy stopped doing that.
Man, what a...
It kind of became, honestly, to me, it kind of became less funny when Spicer showed up. What was
it did. That ruined it completely.
What award show was it that he
man.
showed up at?
It wasn't the Oscars, I don't think. It might have been the Oscars.
It might have been the Oscars where he showed up and did the whole stick,
yeah.
and Melissa McCarthy's just like, crap.
This isn't funny anymore. If he's going to be on another joke, I don't want him to be on another joke.
Yeah. It took away from everything, and it kind of disappointed. It
He
disappointed
was
me
a liar. Sarah Sanders. They're liars. They're awful. I say awful people a lot. They're terrible. They're liars. They're getting paid to lie. They're getting paid to shill shit that the Cheeto, as you said, the buffoon, is telling us, and they have to grin and bear it. I don't know how somebody like Sarah Sanders can sleep at night when she says things like she accuses CNN of accusing the White House of being, what was the word she used? With the shootings in the schools, of them being compliant. She accused CNN of saying that the White House was compliant in school shootings. The fact that CNN was just asking, what policies has Trump put in place that are going to squelch this, that are going to stop this from happening? And he hasn't, because he's not going to put anything towards gun control, because we don't have a gun control problem here in the States, because guns don't kill people. People kill people, which is a joke, because the UK doesn't have handguns, and there's no school shootings in the UK. There's no school shootings in Australia. And so Australia doesn't have handguns either.
Actually, I think it's because, the UK, you say there's no guns in the UK, they just kill each other hand by hand.
They do. Isn't that awful? But they don't kill people as well as we kill people. There's less murder in the UK than there is in the city of St. Louis.
There's a wrestling post I saw not too long ago, and it's funnier than hell. It's a backyard wrestler in America saying, I've won a couple of championships in a couple of indie promotions, backyard wrestling, been hit with light tubes, blah, 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 blah. And then a UK wrestler, I've been bare-knuckle brawling since I was 13, and I've killed 3 guys. Because they're legit
human
nuts.
cockfighting over in the UK.
They're
That's
legit
really what it
nuts
is.
in the UK.
They are, but they're not shooting people real well because they can't get to them. And it's the same kind of situation you have with America. The difference between America and Australia is so vast. But we have personified gun culture with masculinity. And that's a big issue with our youth. And that's a issue why I think a lot of youth are solving issues with guns. Is that you have conditioned the American male at a young age to say, guns are what's solving these issues. That gun culture is equivalent to masculinity. And being a masculine is not having guns. And if you think, boy, that sounds like a real strange conspiracy theory, James, how dumb is that? You can go on any social media aspect and look up masculinity and then liberals. And you're going to find liberals with dildos, and you're going to find conservatives with AKs, and their grandfather's arsenals open up. They got like a bazooka on their shoulder and stuff. Why? That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't, because the archetype of liberal isn't, let me go solve this with my Glock. Let's solve this with words. Let's solve this with talking out issues and conversing with issues and conversing with like-minded, intelligent people. That's masculine now. And that's an issue why we're having a lot of school shootings, but they're not going to regulate anything, so it's a moot point.
Kind of brings up mental health issues, too, with that.
Mental health issues is something I'm really passionate about, obviously. I suffer from anxiety, as you can probably tell by the fact I'm a motor mouth. It's an aspect of my anxiety. It's so scary to think that I've personally struggled with mental illness and mental anxiety. To know that I could go to Walmart tomorrow and purchase a handgun and ammunition and not have any issues because I don't have a record. But I should not own a gun. There's nobody that could really deny the fact that I shouldn't own a gun, but I can, and that's why that's a big problem with our country, is that we're not doing enough to help people and end the stigma on mental health. We just don't. It's just something that we talk about. Boy, it sure be nice to end the stigma on mental health. It sure be nice to do that, but they're never going to do anything about it. There's no profit in it. There's no money from donors that are going to go towards mental health.
All right, real quick.
Yep.
3 things you think that's going to happen within anything with the presidency within the next year.
With the presidency?
Yeah. Do you think? Okay, in honesty.
Oh, we're talking about Mueller and all that?
Yeah. Do you think he's going to make it the full term?
Yes, I do. I don't think he's going to get much done. It's going to be hard. I think the Democrats. The first thing I think is the Democrats are going to take the Senate. I think there's enough seats in play, and I think they're actually putting forward some really strong candidates. I think they'll take the Senate. I think McCaskill will win, which is going to be a source of contention for Missourians. But I don't and I'm going to make this all one point. I don't think the Republicans are taking it as seriously as they should. And they're putting up candidates like the guy in Missouri. I can't remember his name, and I really don't want to give him a platform. But his thoughts on wifely duties is having a cooked meal at 6 p.m. every day. And he releases this as his platform on women's rights. So he's not taking it seriously. The second thing I think is going to happen
It's
is
almost as bad as that senator, or is that the governor?
Todd Aiken.
Yeah,
he was
Todd
running
Aiken.
for senator against McCaskill last.
And-
Illegitimate rape.
Yeah.
What a disaster.
Yeah. What was it?
You know who backed him?
Who?
Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon backed him.
What was his whole thing? Basically, the human body has a way to shut that
Women
down.
can shut things down when it's like that. So there's no rape babies, according to Todd Aiken, because the human body has means to shut that down. They let him say that on TV. They knew that was going to be a question. There's no way they didn't. They knew that, and they let him say that on TV. Do you know why? Part of their voting base believes that. They believe that abortion is so outrageous that there's no room for it. It's the same people who think that Democrats are pro-abortion. Nobody's pro-abortion. People are pro-choice. Nobody's for abortion. Nobody's like, God, I can't wait to go kill some babies. Nobody says that. The second thing I think is going to happen is I think the Republicans are going to hold the House. You're going to have a split legislature. It's not really going to matter because as long as the Democrats hold the Senate, there's really nothing that they can get done. There's just too much to make up. I think it'll start. I think they'll have more seats than they had when they started, but there's just too much room. There's too much gerrymandering going on. Some of it's getting fixed. I think in like North Carolina, they had a situation get fixed with gerrymandering the divisions to the districts to make it more Republican friendly. But I think that's something gonna happen. And the third thing I think you're gonna find that the Mueller investigation will get some big names. I don't think it'll get Trump. I think he's just too far. But I think you might get a new VP. Kushner's definitely gonna go. But I think you're gonna find a lot of big names. I just don't think it's gonna get to Trump. I think he'll make it 4 years. He won't get anything done, but it'll make 4 years.
All right, let's see. Let's hopefully, maybe some of this hopefully will be true.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah. Well, I hope I'm wrong on the last 2 points, but whatever.
Let's hopefully I kick your ass in fantasy next year.
Oh, that's never gonna happen.
All right, I think we're gonna end it on that one.
Bye.
All right, well, there you have it. BJ and me finally buried the hatchet on the fantasy football season, and he got some other stuff off his chest. He gets some of his opinions on where he stands on some issues. Hey, you got his podcast coming out soon, so make sure to check out for that one. I'll be on there. I can't wait for that. That's going to be awesome. Like, comment, and subscribe to this podcast here on SoundCloud and YouTube, and let me know who you want on next. I do have Todd Pottis lined up and a few others as well. Bethany, Liz Tudor, and Michelle and Chels, they're going to be on as well, so make sure you listen in for them. Thanks again to